Hello to everyone on the other side of this screen who is interested in infancy development and science. My name is Ixchel Peyrot, and this will be our last interview of the year. This project began in February, and we look forward to bringing you more interviews from our community in 2025. I am thrilled to welcome one of the awardees from the conference in Glasgow, Dr. Josue Rico-Pico, who received an honorable mention for his outstanding dissertation. Hi, Josue, and welcome to this space.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here today. And especially, I would like to thank you to ICIS and Ixchel to for inviting me to do this interview that, oh gosh, it's a dream that just being here today.
Thank you so much. So we could start with you by telling us about the laboratory where you worked on your dissertation and the main topic of your current research. I don't know if they are the same right now, so please.
Okay. Well, I'm from Spain. I mean, probably you will notice by my strong accent, but I did my dissertation back in Granada. I mean, I did my bachelor, my master degree too. And when I was cursing my master, I fell in love about developmental neuroscience. So then I pursued a PhD under the supervision of Charo Reda in two longitudinal projects that follow up the development of attentional processes, socioeconomic environmental factors, and also brain function. In my case, my thesis, I mean, it was not possible to put it all together. So I focused mostly in the development of brain function measured by electrophysiological activity, specifically at rest, that is when children are doing nothing at all, and also how it's related to the development of inhibitory control with two newly implemented tasks. One, the early childhood inhibitory touchscreen task developed by Carla Holmboe. And also we created another task for when children were age 3 that is called the Be Attentive. So that was more or less my thesis. I mean, that interrelationship that happens between brain maturation and also inhibitory control maturation.
Okay, that's really, really interesting. And what are the main results of your studies?
Oh gosh, there were quite a lot of those. I mean, long story short, brain maturation happens. I mean, I evaluated first the connectivity of the electrodes in the resting state, and we found that with age, the brain connections become more efficient just by improving the ability to integrate all the information in the brain. And also when it comes to another parameter, I use it a lot, the power measurement, that is the energy of different frequency bands or speeds at which the brain activity is happening, that also change it drastically. So when we put it all together in relationship to the maturation of inhibitory control, we found that a more mature pattern of brain power and also a more efficient connectivity was related to the ability to inhibit the inhibitory trials ones, those that are really difficult for the children, although that happens only in one task and not the other one. But taking into consideration the samples that we had and the difficulties and the noises that is characteristic of inhibitory infant studies, was not that bad at all.
Oh, and how do you measure inhibitory process?
I mean, we had two tasks. One was the exit that I tell you before. And this task is a table-based task in which we present two blue rectangles in which one appears one face, and children are taught to that when they touch the face, animation appears with a really beautiful music, and also sometimes the researcher that is with the children is like, "Oh, good, you are doing really well. Oh gosh, look at the elephant," just to reinforce this behavior. And what happens is like the face appears on the 75% of trials in one side, and on the 25% of trials on the other one. So we measure the difficulties from going to the prepotent one, that is the one with more percentage of trials, to the inhibitory one. And
Okay.
we found that also going back from the inhibitory place to the prepotent one has also difficulties, and our measurements were more related to this reallocation from inhibitory to prepotent.
Okay. That's really interesting. And you mentioned about the
Mhm.
variable, the socioeconomic variable. Are you pursuing that variable
Mhm.
or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying. I mean, now I'm in the process of trying to publish the remaining 3 chapters of my thesis, and I think afterwards we will look at those variables. However, now indeed it's like I think it's in partly because that's what I missed in my thesis dissertation. Now the postdoc I'm doing in the NEET and Stroller lab at Columbia University is trying to see how poverty reduction intervention affects to brain development. So I'm just in another way I'm trying also to check it in my I expect to check it in my future studies.
That's really amazing. I think social environment is really important for brain development, and all these inhibitory processes in early infancy is always like a big variable to watch.
Yeah, completely agree. Although I think it's difficult sometimes because if you are not looking for those participants, they don't usually come. Indeed, in Granada, we had like 80% of the kids were above the poverty line, 20% of those were below, but most of the parents were highly educated, and most of them were white and Hispanic, and we
Yeah.
had no minorities in the study. So it's
Yeah.
always a tricky thing.
Where does your passion for conducting infant research come from?
Oh gosh. I mean, there were a lot of factors in that day. First of all, I did my bachelor's thesis with adults,
Okay.
and I felt like a robot. I mean, it was so systematic, so boring. Please go in there, do this experiment. These are the instructions. And after doing that, I don't know, probably over 100 participants, maybe 200 participants, I was like, okay, this is not for me.
Okay.
So I would like to explore other edges, other in which the research can be more dynamic, also more challenging. And at the same time, I I was and I am really interested in brain plasticity and cognitive process plasticity. So when Charo offered me this is to participate in this project about infant development, I was, oh gosh, it makes all the sense. I mean, there is no period in life in which brain and cognition is changing fastest than in
Yeah.
this particular one. All the cognitive processes are emerging, the brain changes are something outstanding. So I was, okay, let's let's go for it. I mean, at that time I didn't know the difficulty that can be
Yeah.
working with children, but I think that's the main reason. And after just doing a bunch of sessions, I did like for more than 400 sessions, I would say maybe 500 sessions. I fell in love with it. I mean, working with children it's difficult. You
Yeah.
just need to be with the flow, but also it's really fun. And also trying to adapt adult paradigms and learn more. You have to be always in top-notch statistics and research methods to adapt to the children. It's a part of the puzzle that I really love too.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's difficult, but it's always really fun. It's really fun to have children as participants.
Yeah.
And do you have any advice for the students that are interested in this field?
Oh gosh. I mean, the first advice that I always tell to the people is don't panic. I mean, this is difficult. The path you are pursuing, it's more difficult than the rest of the ones. I mean, working with adolescents has its own difficulties. Working with elderly children has its own difficulties. But with infants, we are not exempt from those. We know that there is a high rejection rate. Maybe you have 100 participants and in the final analysis, you are going to have 70. That's fine. That's perfect. Don't panic. This is how we study. So at the same time, you need to look for how improve all these things to include more participants and so on. You also need to know that these studies usually take longer. We are going to reject a lot of people, and that is fine. All the people are like us. Please stop your imposter syndrome. Of course, you are being less productive than adult-based researchers, but it is what it is. I mean, we have a lot of different things. Just go with it. And also, I will tell that if you can choose by advisor and group, I mean, it's really important. You will spend mad hours in the lab, probably just doing this research. And in the end, you always need at least two researchers in the sessions. So being in a good group that listens to you, take your opinion into consideration, is flexible with you and helps you, I mean, really helps in the end to take moving everything forward.
Yeah, thank you for those advices. Yeah, it's really important, like the network you are developing as a researcher too, right?
Yeah, totally. And also, I will say that if you can study statistics, I mean, otherwise it's really difficult because with adults it's more or less simple. You don't have missing data. All the parameters are more or less. There is less variability. But those things doesn't work with children and especially in infants. So when the moment of analyzing the data will arrive, you will need to deal with those. So a little bit of statistics applied to child development will be really helpful when you face that moment indeed.
Yeah, totally agree. And what do you enjoy doing when you are not immersed in science? I know it's kind of a difficult question because as a researcher, you're always thinking in science or in participants, where to get them. But what do you like to do?
Oh gosh, when you wrote me that question, I mean, it was almost a shock because for the past year and a half, I went through writing a thesis and moving to another country and the postdoc and starting a new life. So I almost have forgotten who I was before. I mean,
Yeah.
especially the last 6 to 7 months, I was like, oh gosh, immersed in the writing, not seeing almost the sun. But more or less, I will say that when I'm not doing research, I'm like seasonal. I have seasonal hobbies. It's like every 2 3 months I start doing something new. Sometimes it's a sport. I have run a lot. I love running, especially in the nature. I have run several half marathons and races in the middle of the mountain. But also there is this part of me that love like being at home and watching movies with his friends and cooking a lot. I mean, I love cooking, especially for people. I mean, that
Oh,
social part of cooking, it's wonderful for me. I mean, if only for me, it's like self-surviving, but I like this social component of food and always trying at least one a week, two a week, just meet some friends for having a coffee or cooking something
yeah.
together and so on. So in finally, I would probably say that I read a lot. I mean, I read something related. Part of the books are related to science because
Yeah.
I'm quite curious, but also sometimes I read a lot of bad science fictions, and because it's like I need a break to my brain.
Yeah.
So I would say that those three things are the ones that I do the most. Of course, if PhD salaries and postdoc salaries were higher, maybe I will do my fourth hobby mode that is traveling. I love travel. I mean, I have been around Europe twice in train. Every time that I go to a conference, I have time.
Yeah.
Maybe I will spend more days in the city just wandering around. So I would say that oh, it's like that's the Josue side, the lab.
That's amazing. Spanish cuisine is, I think it's amazing. I mean, I'm only tried it here in Mexico, but I'm totally in love with Spanish food.
Oh gosh, I mean, me too. I miss it a lot. Every time I go outside home, it's like, oh gosh, please, I need something. I need a tortilla de patatas. I need a paella.
Yeah. Well, so thank you very much for this final
Mhm.
2024 interview, for your time and for sharing your experience with us as a young researcher in ICIS community. And congratulations for your award.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a totally pleasure to be here today. If you want to hear any more about my research, just write me. I mean, I answer emails probably faster than WhatsApp, so
Okay.
I'm always there. Almost.
Well, thank you so much and take care.
You too. Bye.